Hello, internet. Okay, so a few people seem to like what did I even do last time? The understability and overstability thing. So what I'm going to go over today is just real quick, in my understanding, what causes disks to beat in and become less stable. So there's two categories. One is things that decrease, things that make the disc wobble more, which includes stuff like this. Like obviously, this landed very aggressively on asphalt at some point. It has a big old scrape and a bunch of like loose flashing stuff that was scraped up. So stuff like that has happened before, and I took a lighter and like folded it back down. So this is a T-bird that has seen better days. It's DX, so it just like gets damaged like nobody's business. So this is significantly less stable now than when it started. It's pretty darn flippy. This is 167, and it's light. That's another thing, and it has a bunch of scratches and stuff on it that just decreases the stability of the disc because it grabs more air in some places. In other places, it has more drag where there's damage, and it just makes the gyroscopic stability less consistent because the disc is going to jiggle a little tiny bit. So I mentioned weight. In the same weight, exactly the same disc in different ways, excuse me, you're going to have different stabilities because there's going to be a different amount of gyroscopic stability. That's why like MVP, who I think puts heavier plastic on the rim, those are theoretically a little more stable because of that. So same idea, if you have a disc, if you have a T-bird in 150 and 175, they're going to fly differently because there's more gyroscopic stability in the 175. Also, the mass is different, so it's easier to accelerate the little one, but don't worry about that. So that's one category, is just general damage. Another category is specific damage. So you may or may not be able to see this. I can totally see it. See if I can get the camera to, maybe not in this lighting. So here's a normal part of the rim. So I'm seeing it like in the light here. And then there. So maybe let's look at it over here. Can I do this? I don't know. If I had a picture, it'd be easier. Okay, well, let me find the spot. So anyways, this particular T-bird hit a pole, a flat pole, very hard. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it because I can't even find it now. Anyways, there's if you're looking at the edge of a disc, and there's when this happened, you'd see the rim here, and then you'd see it dip down and come back up. So if people talk about parting line height a lot, which is like a mold thing, but if this edge of the disc was bent down a lot, then effectively, if I were to do that everywhere, then the disc would have more dome because it's bent this way and it has more dome. So if you take the nose, where the cutting edge of the nose, and bend it down from impact, that's going to make the disc less stable because it's going to make more of an airfoil, so there's going to be more lift on the top of the disc, which is understable. So things like T-birds are susceptible to that because their parting line is angled down a little bit. So if this hits something, the plastic is going to deform down. If you take something like a Mako or a harp or a zone with a blunt nose, when that hits something, it's not really going to deform the nose because the nose is shaped like this. It hits something and it stays where it is. Something like this, it already has a little bit of understability to it. When it makes an impact with something, it's going to get pushed down. So that's why discs in this general shape get more understable because of tree impacts and stuff like that. but whoever hits trees. Not me. So another thing that you won't be able to see on a camera, this video is great. There, you can see it, flashing. So flashing matters a lot. This is a new Dynasty, really cool 9-speed. And it's more overstable because of that flashing. Because if you think about like the last video where there's a down scoop, that flashing is causing a little tiny micro scoop down. So you may look at it and say like, it doesn't really matter. But I've had a bunch of discs that are brand new that have this like sharp flashing that like bugs your fingers. And if you just take sandpaper and take that off, the disc will fly pretty differently. I mean, not like a ton, but it's a little bit less overstable because that flashing kicks more air down, which lifts the nose up, which takes effect 90 degrees later, which causes fade. So that matters too. Where on the bottom of the disc reduces the amount of overstability because it reduces how much air is getting kicked down. So if you have like a beaded putter and the bead is aggressively pushing air down, if you play catch with it on an asphalt parking lot for 200 hours and the bead wears completely off, then that disc is going to be less overstable. Okay, so another thing, actually Seabass offered me a correction about my last video. Thank you, sir. And again, the mental model that I have, even if the physics is not perfect, it works. So I was talking about disc is going this way, disc going that way. So this is the nose. There's a downforce on the nose that causes turn, which makes the disc go to the right. Technically not correct. Technically what's happening is because there's an airfoil, the center of pressure is behind the center of gravity. Don't ask me why. I think that's just how wings work. They make their lift in a that way vector, not a perfectly up-centered vector. So there's actually, due to lift, an up force on the tail end of the disc rather than a down force on the nose of the disc. Those both, however, do the same thing and tip the nose down, but because gyroscopic precession, that effect takes effect 90 degrees later and you get turn. So just a little correction there. Thanks, Seabass, appreciate it. But that center of pressure and all that stuff gets confusing real quick. So that's deeper than I wanted to go into the physics. So I kind of glossed over that part, but again, the mental model works. Okay, so that's what causes understability. Another note, like if you see people bending their discs, like a couple of pros bend their discs, either towards more understability or towards more overstability, what they're doing is they're affecting the parting line a little tiny bit. Also in a Roby Epic, if you've ever had a chance to play with one of those, you can tune them by doing the same thing, but I mean, technically you can tune any disc like that. But anyways, now you know. Good luck.